Hey everyone, this is Mitch from Castro Valley Fitness. How are you all doing today? This workout for this week is going to be a little different than the workouts that I've been kind of putting out. And the main reason for that is because I know everyone's been very stressed lately. Everyone's been doing a lot of sitting, a lot of stressing. So this workout is really going to be more about positions and to help you kind of relieve some of that stress that we're talking about. So just something a little different, but I think it'll help you feel better. And we'll talk about each exercise as we go. Okay, so the exercises we're going to do today are based on a kind of a method of posture, alignment, and things like that from Egoscue, Egoscue. So I'm not going to go into all that. We don't have time for that. But some of these moves, including this first one, might seem kind of simple, maybe even a little silly, but if you give it its proper attention, then they are very effective. Okay, so the first move is something we call static back, and it's again going to look very silly, but all you're going to do is just lie with your feet up, nice and relaxed. So we want about a 90-degree angle in the hips and about a 90-degree angle in the knees. It doesn't have to be exact. As you see, I'm not perfectly aligned, perfectly 90 degrees, but that's fine. You want something in that area. And you're just going to rest your arms. You're going to go palms up in a comfortable position. Sometimes people initially bring their arms up here. That's not very comfortable. We want kind of down here, okay? Palms up. We're going to line, we're just going to lie here and breathe for 5 minutes. Doesn't seem like much is going on here, but actually there's a lot going on. What happens over the course of a lot of stress is that the muscles in your low back get very tight, especially if you kind of have what we call an overextended posture. And what I mean by an overextended posture is when you kind of, but if you're kind of like a little overextended here in the low back, as opposed to more of a flex posture, some people are like this. When you're kind of overextended, the muscles here get very, very tight because they're constantly being used. So what this is going to do is you're going to use gravity to help you relax those muscles and let them kind of release. And with the feet up, the nice thing about having your feet up is it takes your hip flexors, the muscles kind of right in the hips right there that tend to get tight if we're doing a lot of sitting. In this position, the hip flexors can kind of relax as well. They're not kind of turned on. So it tends to really relieve a lot of that kind of low back issue. If you have kind of low back pain that goes kind of straight across, then this is really going to help with that. If you have low pain that goes up and down in your back, along kind of here, this is going to help with that as well. The key here is you want to be perfectly aligned when you do this, okay? You don't want to be kind of, and I'm going to kind of give you a weird angle here, but when we're back here like this, hopefully you can see me okay, we want to be lined up perfectly. So in other words, I don't want to be like this or like this. I don't want to have my arms one like this. I want to have everything lined up, and I'm just going to work on my breathing and work on breathing from here and just letting the muscles in my low back just kind of release. We're going to hold that for 5 minutes, okay? Really important that you don't have a TV on in the corner so your head's turned, or you're not having a conversation with someone. You are just relaxed in that position for 5 full minutes, okay? You're going to feel what it does if you allow that to happen, all right? That's the first thing we're going to do. Let's move on. Okay, this next exercise we call the gravity drop. What you're going to do here is you can do this on a stairway or any kind of a box or step. So just kind of in this position so your feet don't slip. So if you see, my feet are just kind of hanging off this box. I'm kind of staying on the balls of my feet here. Now, the couple things that are very important. First thing is I want to make sure my feet are lined up. I'm going to turn around. This is not how we normally do it, but I'm going to turn around so you can kind of see the way my feet are. They're perfectly straight. If I just kind of don't think about it, what's going to happen is I'm going to wind up in this position. Okay, my feet are naturally going to want to turn out. But what I want to do is I want to make sure my feet are perfectly straight. Okay? The other thing that I want is to make sure that my hips are lined up right over my feet as well. So in other words, I don't want to be here, I want to be here, okay? So I want to think about my hips directly over my ankles, all right? So one way to kind of feel that is if I went up here, if I just kind of look down at my feet, Notice how my hips naturally kind of go back into that position that I want them in. And when I stand up, I'm just going to leave my hips right there, okay? During this exercise, you're going to constantly want to readjust that because your hips are naturally going to kind of come into this kind of extension here where we want them out here. That's going to naturally happen as you relax. So that's one thing I want to constantly think about. The other thing is, again, constantly making sure my feet are straight. Number 3, doing my best to make sure my weight distribution is even on both sides of my body. In other words, I don't want to be feeling more on my left than my right, okay? And what this exercise is doing is helping you line up. So if you notice my posture here, I'm pretty much lined up. I go, to a large extent, I go from ankle through my hip into my shoulder, right up my body in a relatively good straight line as we go. So this is a really good exercise. Again, if you're doing a lot of sitting, you're probably leaning to one side, feeling things more in one way or the other. You have a little bit of rotation or something like that going on. This exercise will help you with that. So we're going to hold this for 3 minutes, okay, if you can, all right? Okay, this next exercise is downward dog. So you've probably heard of this in yoga or different things. The setup for this is very important. You want to make sure you're lined up for your setup. So what you're going to do here, we're going to start on the ground, hands and knees on the ground, and lined up. We want your knees right under your hips, your hands right under your shoulders. And then from here, we're going to come up. Boom, straighten your legs out, let your heels drop toward the floor, and then try to keep your legs straight. So we don't want this. This is pointless. Just this position right here. We want to make sure your butt is pointing up in the air. So think about your body making a V position, not a U position. In other words, we don't want a nice round back when we're doing this. We want to keep everything nice and straight, point up. You're going to get a nice stretch in the low back, nice stretch in your hamstrings, okay? From there, we're going to hold that for a minute. From there, we're going to go into what we call a runner's stretch. So what we want to do when we're lining this one up is, we're going to get your knee touching your heel right here. Everything's lined up in a nice straight line. I'll show you that. Very important that we're on a straight line when we do this. Hands, again, evenly placed on the side of my feet, on the side of my front foot, and I'm coming up like this, doing my best to straighten out this leg. Let me show you from the side there. Doing my best to straighten out this leg. This leg will likely, unless you're extremely flexible, this leg is probably not going to be able to be straightened out, and that's perfectly fine. I'm still feeling that stretch right through here, okay? And I'm just going to hold right there. Really important to keep my weight back. In other words, I don't want to wind up here, okay? I'm trying to straighten this leg. That's going to get my weight mostly on my front heel here. So we're going to do a minute on each leg on that one, okay? Let's move on. One more point on those exercises. If it's a little challenging for you to do those with your hands on the floor, you can do them with your hands on a step or a box or anything like that. So for instance, the downward dog, in this kind of position, if you're going to do the runner's stretch here, you're going to want to get your toe on the step of the box or whatever, and then line yourself up just as I said. Hands on the step, come back up, boom, like that. Okay, so that's perfectly fine. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is what we call standing quad stretch. So what you're going to do, find a chair, something to put your leg up. I prefer to be up against a wall here so that you can balance yourself out and keep yourself upright. So what we're going to do is, I like to make sure before I even get my foot up there that my feet are perfectly straight, in a good position, about hip width apart, hands here, again, good posture, and then from here, I'm going to bring one leg up, place it on a box or chair, something, whatever works, and then just hold this position right here. As I'm doing that, I'm trying to make sure to keep this quad kind of tight. So I'm trying to really flex this quad, which is going to increase the stretch through here, through my hip flexor right there. And I'm trying to stay nice and even as I stand. Again, just like anything else, I don't want to be kind of leaning to one side or the other. And I'm trying to, again, make sure that my foot is perfectly straight. And then also, if you notice, my legs are even. And when I say that, I mean that I'm not like this. I'm like this. Okay? Just holding this, we're going to go a minute on each side. standing quad stretch. Okay, so this next one's called the upper body spinal twist. Kind of a funny name. Well, again, alignment here is crucially important to get the stretch where we want it so it's actually effective for you. So I'll show you this from a couple different angles. What you're going to want to do, we're going to start lying on the side, kind of in the fetal position here. I'm stacking my knees and my feet completely together. So in other words, I don't want this, I don't want this, or like this. I want them perfectly stacked on each other. I'm taking my bottom arm, and I'm actively holding these, my legs together, my feet together, and into the ground, okay? In other words, I don't want this kind of separation when I go into my stretch. So I'm actively holding it with this arm, and then I'm reaching back with the other arm, and just holding this position, breathing nice and deep, okay? So let me show you that from this angle. So again, what I want to make sure is I don't wind up doing this. I want to make sure these stays in contact with each other and with the floor. That way I'm getting all my motion from my upper back, my thoracic spine, my erectors through here, and not through the low back, through here, okay? So I'm just going to hold that right there, look there, breathe, let my body relax. Show you that from the other angle too. So this position right here, just like that. And then what I'm going to finish up with is pretty simple. We're going to call these supine foot circles and point flexes. So supine just means you're lying on the ground. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch one leg out straight, grab the other leg behind my knee. With my straight leg, I'm going to make sure my toe is pointing straight up at the ceiling. Okay, I'm not going to let it flip over. With this foot, I'm going to do circles. Okay? When I'm doing my circles, I am making sure to get my circles coming right from my foot. In other words, I don't want to be moving my low leg. Okay? I just want to adjust my foot. I'm going to go 40 in one direction, 40 in the other direction, 40 just back and forth. Okay? The first time you do these 40 might be a little challenging. Do whatever you can, okay? And that's the case with all these exercises. If you experience any pain doing this exercise or discomfort, other than just a stretch, it's not necessarily what we want, okay? So, make any adjustments you can. If you need to cut down the time you're doing the exercises, that's fine, build up. But I do think that doing this is going to help you with some of those aches and pains. They sure help me, and they should help a lot of our members here. So let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.